funky tribal council vote split, a scary challenge fail, and the beware advantages were finally activated. We're gonna be breaking it all down. But before we get there, I know, I was wrong about Tori finding the idol. This is my Survivor 42 episode 5 breakdown video. So there's a new round of our Survivor buff giveaway. I'll announce last week's winner at the end of this. As always, all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber to the channel, like the video, and comment down below your thoughts on the season so far. Let's get right into the breakdown. I'll number all these things as we go along to stay organized, starting with number 20, Ika after Tribal. This is the fallout of Swati going home and Tori being able to maneuver herself into the alliance. My big takeaway from this is Romeo and Drea are in the driver's seat, and Rockstroy is on the bottom feeling very betrayed for what happened. Romeo says they don't bring him in on the plan because he's a bad social player and they don't want him to go and tell Swati. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we might have a hint about who will be breaking the hourglass next week. During the Next Time on Survivor segment, someone in the Russell Muscle TV Discord pointed out that Rockstroy looks pretty similar to where Erica was during the hourglass episode. Going into a merge, everyone has to stay 4 strong, 4 strong. Tori laughs this off and says as soon as she can, she's flipping over to another tribe. Number 19, Jonathan versus the world. Lindsay and Marianne start talking about Mario Kart, and really they're just talking to talk as they're going from one thing to another. It was raining outside, so everyone was stuck in the shelter, but Jonathan had enough and had to get out and get some silence. I really respect him for this because I think I would have lost my cool way sooner than he did. We get a little callback to Rick Devens and Edge of Extinction as Marianne says she's doing a news show. And this leads right into number 18, Jonathan versus Marianne. I don't think this was as big of a deal as they let it on to be, but the merge is coming, so the producers need to make it seem even a little bit like Taku has a chance to crack. I think Jonathan comes off here really good and Marianne comes off here not the best. Jonathan's self-aware enough to know he can't fight this argument, so he does the best thing he can and walks away as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, I think Marianne's seen in a little bit of negative light as we get a bunch of one-on-one situations where Lindsay and Jonathan think Marianne's getting a little bit annoying. Marianne thinks they gotta keep Jonathan around as a shield, and Omar says they need to keep Marianne around because she has the extra vote in the idol. Number 17, Vati is messy. The Vati tribe or the Green tribe is completely in shambles, and honestly I can't decide what tribe is in worst place, Ika or Vati. Hai says everyone's super fake around each other and places the target on either Daniel or Chanelle. Daniel being the enemy and the threat that you know, and Chanelle being kind of like the mystery, the threat that you don't know. Obviously they both become the targets later and we're gonna talk all about it. Number 16, Daniel fishing. When we saw this last week during the previously on Survivor segment, my brain went right to thinking Daniel was gonna lose the spear. I saw a lot of myself in Daniel during this moment. As watching the episode with my family, I literally said out loud, it would be so cool to try spearfishing in Fiji. Well, Daniel basically says the exact same thing as Survivor shouldn't be all gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. Lydia and Hai get a little pissed at Daniel for going spearfishing with his dislocated shoulder from episode 1, as he's sat out in so many of these challenges. I'm on the side of Daniel with this one, as floating in the ocean is a little bit different than going all out during an immunity challenge. Number 15, Ika Idol Hunt. Before we officially get to my apology for being wrong about last week, this is a fun moment for Romeo and Drea as they're searching for the idol together, really showing that they're one of the closest duos in the game, if not the closest duo in the game. Number 14, Romeos Story. Another Survivor flashback story as Romeo relates playing Survivor to being a pageant coach back at home, as he's trying to lift Drea up to be the best Survivor player she possibly can be. I don't know if I'm overanalyzing this and going too much into the edit, but I think this is our first hint that a woman's gonna win the season, as Romeo's gonna be lifting someone up, maybe Drea, into winning the game. I'm thinking this shows that Romeo's gonna go far into the game, but I don't think he's gonna win now. Number 13, Drea finds the idol. Okay, here we go. Drea finds the idol, opens it in front of her number 1 ally, Romeo. When they read it, first thing they think is, oh no, Drea lost her vote. But they're able to work around it because if need be, Drea will just give Romeo her extra vote and vote for her. Drea is now one of the most powerful players in the game, having the amulet, having an extra vote, having a hidden immunity idol. But much like I was reading too much into the edit thinking Romeo can't win, I now think Drea can't win. Because when she's hyping herself up, she says she's checked off her entire Survivor bucket list. You haven't won the game yet, Drea. Anyways, the elephant in the room, we need to talk about it. I guaranteed, much like everyone in the Survivor community, that Tori was gonna find the beware advantage. There are some disbelievers, as one person on YouTube actually tried to confirm it wasn't gonna be Tori, and now I guarantee everyone's gonna be like, see, it was a misdirect. My issue is, it doesn't matter. Even though this ended up being like a double fake situation, the producers still led us to believe that Tori was gonna find it in the preview, meaning that they spoiled 2 of the tribal councils anyway. Number Number 12, Mike's idol confusion. We're almost done talking about these stupid idol phrases. Mike talks about how he really doesn't want to say the phrase and it will be a game time decision. Much like how Jeff said in the premiere episode of the season that some things are going to be the same as 41 and some things are going to be different. In Survivor 41, if the idols weren't said before the merge, then the idols were just deactivated. But this works a little bit different here, as if all phrases aren't said before the merge, once the merge happens, they become full idols anyway, and you get your vote back. Two things about this. Number one, I'm loving Mike this season, and he's now our frontrunner for the most confessionals overall. Number two, I think this is a little bit cheating, as everyone else was forced to say the phrase, and Mike wasn't. I don't think Mike's cheating on purpose, but I still do think it's cheating in a way. Number 11, the Matt chat. Finally, the beware advantages get activated. Marianne talks about rabbits, Drea talks about a potato, and Mike talks about playing soccer. Number 10, immunity and reward. You gotta go up over a net ramp, untangle some ropes for a key, use the key for a machete, drop some sandbags, fire at 2 targets. Pretty funny as everyone cheers for food at this point, but Jeff says no, we're going for a tarp. Number 9, Omar Chokes. Normally I wouldn't separate different parts of an immunity challenge into separate moments, but for how bad Omar chokes here, I absolutely need to include this on the list. I was absolutely convinced that Taku was gonna lose this challenge because of Omar, and I guess it shows how much I'm loving Taku or the Orange Tribe this season, as when Omar was choking, I was literally getting goosebumps and butterflies that they were gonna lose and go to tribal council. Not to worry, Jonathan carries the team, one-hands it with some sandbags, as Ika comes in first place and Taku comes in second place. Talking about choking in the challenge, I'm currently choking in real life, as I'm not the biggest Russell in the Survivor YouTube community. Help me pass Russell Hans and subscribe to the channel right now. Every few subscribers, this clock's gonna change. Number 8, journey players. You always have to send someone from the losing tribe, so from the Vati tribe, we get Lydia going on the journey. And from Eca Tribe, they decide to send Rockstroy, making this probably the most awkward pairing of invisible players ever to go to Summit Island. Number 7, Vati after the challenge. But it's super sad and crazy how messy this group of players got. How Daniel and Chanelle were literally on top of the world, on top of this tribe, and a few mistakes later, they're on the bottom and both of them are on the chopping block. Ultimately, the smart thing to do is tell both players it's going to be the other person, as Mike and I, with Lydia a little later on, need to decide who's going to be going home. This is way more complicated than it needs to be, as if Lydia protects her vote at Shipwheel Island, then they can split the votes. But also, if a shot in the dark happens, then that could mess everyone's plan up. We're going to be talking about all of it when we get to Tribal Council. Number 6, Lydia's Story. This episode really does a good job of moving Lydia up the ranks, as she gets 5 confessionals this episode as well as a flashback story, as she opens up about having body image issues, and as Survivor just naturally will open you up. Number 5, Rockstroy and Lydia. I was cringing the whole time watching this. Lydia's too weird for Rockstroy, Rockstroy's too old for Lydia. They both end up lying to each other about everything, as Lydia talks about how she might be in danger of this tribal council, and Rockstroy says he's tight with his group. I was almost impressed with Rockstroy here, as he was so close to coming off looking smart. He finally makes it to the Shipwheel decision and talks himself into what to do. He can't decide between risking his vote and protecting his vote, but then he remembers Lydia told him that she's on the bottom. This is where I'm like, okay, go Rockstroy, make the right decision. He somehow thinks the person on the bottom will be the same person that will risk their vote. No, if you're in trouble, you need to protect your vote. In a sense, I do respect Lydia and Rockstroy for protecting their vote, as sometimes the big move is to protect your vote and not risk it. Number 4, Lydia back at camp. It feels like this is moving quick for us, and in reality, it's moving quick for Lydia as well, as she gets about 15 minutes before they head to Tribal Council. This ends up being a great sequel to episode 3, as the battle between Chanelle and Daniel continues. I found it really interesting when Lydia returned from Shipwheel Island. She told the entire tribe that it was the exact same thing that Jenny said. That makes me think, what did Chanelle say? Does no one believe Chanelle? Number 3, Tribal Council. We knew it was coming, Daniel versus Chanelle. Daniel tries to play into Mike's good heart and says we're gonna be a family for the rest of our lives. Chanelle calls Daniel out for this and says, look, you can't talk about Mike like that. He's basically 117 years old. Number 4, vote and revote. The original vote ends up being 2 for Chanelle, 2 for Daniel, and 1 for Mike. This is so interesting, we need to talk about it. When I first watched this, I was so confused where this random Mike vote came from, but after you think about it for a second, it makes a lot of sense. You gotta wipe the board clean for a second and pretend that Daniel voted for Chanelle, but then everyone else voted for Daniel, making it 4 Daniel, 1 Chanelle. Okay, if Daniel plays his shot in the dark, that means it goes 4 Daniel and then 0 anyone else. If the shot in the dark works, that means there's 0 votes, and on a revote, Chanelle probably goes home. But Chanelle decides to throw her vote on Mike, which means if Daniel plays the shot in the dark and the shot in the dark works, then there's no revote and instantly Mike goes home. This is a really smart big brain Survivor move, but I'm not sure if it was the most optimal move for Chanelle, because now Mike is gonna be really pissed at her. If you want to be better safe than sorry, then Chanelle made the right move. But if you want to make sure Mike stays on your side, then Chanelle made the wrong move here. Number 1, Daniel goes home. Congratulations CLTM, you're this week's buff giveaway winner. Please private message me on Discord or Instagram so I can get your contact details. I'll announce next week's winner during our episode 6 breakdown. Click right here for the most overrated seasons in Survivor history.